The FN P90 is a personal defense weapon designed and manufactured by FN Herstal in Belgium. Created in response to NATO requests for a replacement for 9A, 19mm Parabellum firearms, the P90 was designed as a compact but powerful firearm for vehicle crews, operators of crew-served weapons, support personnel, special forces and counter-terrorist groups. Designed by FN in conjunction with the FN 57 pistol and FN 5.7A, 28mm ammunition, development of the weapon began in 1986, and production commenced in 1990, whereupon the 5.7A, 28mm ammunition was redesigned and shortened. A modified version of the P90 with a magazine adapted to use the new ammunition was introduced in 1993, and the 5.7 pistol was subsequently introduced as a companion weapon using the same 5.7A, 28mm ammunition. Featuring a compact bullpup design with an integrated reflex sight and fully ambidextrous controls, the P90 is an unconventional weapon with a futuristic appearance. Its design incorporates several innovations such as a unique top-mounted magazine and FN's small caliber, high-velocity 5.7A, 28mm ammunition. The P90 is currently in service with military and police forces in over 40 nations, such as Austria, Brazil, Canada, France, Greece, India, Malaysia, Poland, and the United States. In the United States, the P90 is in use with over 200 law enforcement agencies, including the U.S. Secret Service. While developed and initially marketed as a PDW, it can also be considered a submachine gun or compact assault rifle. The standard selective fire P90 is restricted to military and law enforcement customers, but since 2005, a semi-automatic version has been offered to civilian shooters as the PS90. History, development. The P90 and its 5.7A, 28mm ammunition were developed by FN Herstal in response to NATO requests for a replacement for the 9A, 19mm Parabellum cartridge and associated pistols and submachine guns. NATO called for two types of weapons chambered for a new cartridge, one a shoulder-fired weapon, and the other a handheld weapon. According to NATO, these new weapons, termed personal defense weapons, were to provide personal protection in last resort situations when the user is directly endangered by the enemy. In 1989, NATO published Document D/296, outlining a number of preliminary specifications for these weapons. The new cartridge was to have greater range, accuracy, and terminal performance than the 9A, 19mm cartridge. Additionally, it was to be capable of penetrating body armor. The shoulder-fired personal defense weapon was to weigh less than 3 kg, with a magazine capacity of at least 20 rounds. The handheld personal defense weapon was to weigh less than 1 kg, although a weight of 700 kg was deemed desirable. It was to have a magazine capacity of no less than 20 rounds. Both weapons were to be sufficiently compact to be carried hands-free on the user's person at all times, whether in the cab of a vehicle or the cockpit of an aircraft, and were to perform effectively in all environments and weather conditions. FN Herstal was the first small arms manufacturer to respond to NATO's requirement. FN started by developing a shoulder-fired personal defense weapon, the P90, along with a small caliber, high-velocity 5.7A, 28mm cartridge type. The original 5.7A, 28mm cartridge, called the SS90, went into production with the P90 in 1990. The SS90 propelled a 1.5 AG plastic core projectile from the P90 at a muzzle velocity of roughly 850 ams. Shortly after its introduction, the P90 was adopted and used in service with the Belgian Special Forces Group in the 1991 Gulf War. Following the P90's introduction, FN revised the 5.7A, 28mm ammunition. The new variation, designated the SS190, used a projectile 2.7 ohm shorter in length than that of the SS90. This allowed it to be used more conveniently in the 5.7A, 28mm FN 57 pistol, which was under development at that time. The SS-190 projectile had a heavier weight, and a more conventional construction with an aluminium and steel core. The first prototypes of the SS-190 were created in 1992, and the design was finalized in 1993, replacing the SS-90. A modified version of the P90, with a magazine adapted to use the shortened ammunition, was then introduced in the same year. Several special cartridge variations were developed, such as the L191 tracer round and the SB193 subsonic round for use with a sound-suppressed P90. NATO evaluation. In 2002 and 2003, NATO conducted a series of tests with the intention of standardizing a PDW cartridge as a replacement for the 9A, 19mm Parabellum cartridge. The tests compared the relative merits of the FN 5.7A, 28mm cartridge and the HK 4.6A, 30mm cartridge, which was created by German small arms manufacturer Heckler & Koch as a competitor to the 5.7A, 28mm. The results of the NATO tests were analyzed by a group formed of experts from Canada, France, the United Kingdom, and the United States, and the group's conclusion was that the 5.7A, 28mm was undoubtedly the more efficient cartridge. However, the German delegation and others rejected the NATO recommendation that 5.7A, 28mm be standardized, halting the standardization process indefinitely. As a result, both the 4.6A, 30mm and 5.7A, 28mm cartridges have been independently adopted by various NATO countries, according to preference. The P90 is currently in service with military and police forces in over 40 countries throughout the world. Present, further development of the P90 platform led to the creation of the P90TR model, which has a MILS TD1913 triple rail interface for mounting accessories. This model was introduced in late 1999 and continues to be offered alongside the standard P90. More recently, the P90 has been offered to civilian shooters as the PS90, a semi-automatic carbine intended for personal protection and sporting use. Design. The P90 is a selective fire, straight blowback operated weapon with a cyclic rate of fire of 900 RPMs. The weapon is chambered for FN's 5.7A, 28mm ammunition, and although it was developed and initially marketed as a personal defense weapon, it could be considered a submachine gun or compact assault rifle. Its unusual shape is based on extensive ergonomic research. The weapon is grasped by means of a thumbhole in the frame that acts as a pistol grip, as well as an oversized trigger guard that acts as a foregrip for the shooter's support hand. The P90 fires from a closed bolt for maximum accuracy, and its design makes extensive use of polymers for reduced weight and cost. Overall, the weapon is relatively lightweight, weighing 2.5 kg empty, or 3 kg with a loaded 50-round magazine. The P90 is notable for being fully ambidextrous. It can be operated by right or left-handed shooters with equal ease, and without making any modifications to the weapon. FN Herstal has described it as the first fully ambidextrous individual automatic weapon. The charging handle, magazine release and backup iron sights are symmetrically distributed on both sides of the weapon, and the firing selector is located directly at the foot of the trigger, where it can be operated from either side by the shooter's trigger finger or support hand thumb. When fired, the P90 ejects spent cartridge casings downward through a chute located behind the grip, so spent cases are kept out of the shooter's line of sight. The P90 can be fitted with a sling for greater ease of carry, and since the weapon has a fixed stock, it can be quickly deployed when needed. The weapon's smooth, rounded contours prevent it from snagging on the shooter's clothing or equipment, and a small vertical protrusion is provided at the front end of the weapon's frame to prevent the shooter's hand from accidentally slipping in front of the muzzle while shooting. A hollow compartment inside the rear of the weapon's frame accessed by removing the butt plate allows for convenient storage of a cleaning kit. The P90 was designed to have a length no greater than a man's shoulder width, to allow it to be easily carried and maneuvered in tight spaces, such as the inside of an armored vehicle. To achieve this, the weapon's design uses the unconventional bullpup configuration, in which the action and magazine are located behind the trigger and alongside the shooter's face so that there is no wasted space in the stock. The P90's dimensions are minimized by its unique horizontally mounted feeding system, wherein the box magazine sits parallel to the barrel on top of the weapon's frame. The weapon overall has an extremely compact profile. It is the most compact fixed-stock submachine gun to be made. The standard version of the weapon has an overall length of 500 mm, a height of 210 mm, and a width of 55 mm. The P90 requires minimal maintenance, and it can be disassembled quickly and easily. It is a modular firearm, consisting of four main component groups: the barrel and optical sight group, the moving parts group, the frame and trigger group, and the hammer group. The P90's barrel is cold hammer forged and chrome-lined, with an overall length of 263 mm. The barrel has 8 rifling grooves with a right-hand twist rate of 1/231 mm, and it is equipped with a diagonally cut flash suppressor that also acts as a recoil compensator. The stated service life of the barrel is 20,000 rounds. The P90 uses an internal hammer striking mechanism and a trigger mechanism with a 3-position rotary dial fire control selector, located at the foot of the trigger. The dial has 3 settings: ZA safe, 1AA semi-automatic fire, and or a fully automatic fire. When set on A, the P90's fire selector provides a 2-stage trigger operation similar to that of the Steer AUG assault rifle. Pulling the trigger back slightly produces semi-automatic fire, and pulling the trigger fully to the rear produces fully automatic fire. Ammunition. Particularly significant to the design of the P90 is the small caliber, high-velocity bottlenecked cartridge it uses. The 5.7A, 28mm cartridge was created by FN Herstal in response to a NATO requirement that called for a replacement for the 9A, 19mm Parabellum cartridge, which is commonly used in pistols and submachine guns. The 5.7A, 28mm cartridge weighs 6.0 agar, roughly half as much as a typical 9A, 19mm cartridge, allowing the same amount of ammunition to be carried for less weight, or allowing more ammunition to be carried for the same weight. Since the 5.7A, 28mm cartridge has a relatively small diameter, an unusually high number of cartridges can be contained in a magazine. The cartridge has a loud report and produces considerable muzzle flash, but it produces roughly 30% less recoil than the 9A, 19mm cartridge, improving controllability. Due to its high velocity, the 5.7A, 28mm exhibits an exceptionally flat trajectory. One of the design intents for the standard 5.7A, 28mm cartridge type, the SS-190, was that it have the ability to penetrate Kevlar protective vests such as the NATO Crizet vest that will stop conventional pistol bullets. Fired from the P90, the 5.7A, 28mm SS-190 has a muzzle velocity of roughly 716 ams and is capable of penetrating the Crizet vest at a range of 200 m, or a level IIIA Kevlar vest at the same range. FN states an effective range of 200 am and a maximum range of 1800 am for the 5.7A, 28mm cartridge when fired from the P90. In testing conducted by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in 1999, the SS-190 fired from the P90 at a distance of 25 am exhibited an average penetration depth of 25 cm in ballistic gelatin covered with a level 2 vest. The SS-190 exhibited penetration depths ranging from 28 to 34 cm when fired from the P90 into bare ballistic gelatin, in tests conducted by Houston Police Department SWAT. In testing, the SS-190 and similar 5.7A, 28mm projectiles consistently turn base over point as they pass through ballistic gelatin and other media, using the 21.6mm projectile length to create a larger wound cavity. However, some are skeptical of the bullet's terminal performance, and it is a subject of debate among civilian shooters in the United States. The 5.7A, 28mm projectile potentially poses less risk of collateral damage than conventional pistol bullets, because the projectile design limits over-penetration, as well as risk of ricochet. The lightweight projectile loses much of its kinetic energy after traveling only 400 m, whereas a conventional pistol bullet such as the 9A, 19 mm retains significant energy beyond 800 m, posing greater risk of collateral damage in the event of a miss. This range exceeds the engagement distances expected for the 5.7A, 28 mm cartridge's intended applications, so the cartridge's limited energy at long range is not considered to be disadvantageous. Since the SS-190 projectile does not rely on fragmentation or the expansion of a hollow point, the cartridge is considered suitable for military use under the Hague Convention of 1899, which prohibits the use of expanding bullets in warfare. Feeding: the P90 uses a unique horizontally mounted feeding system patented in the United States that contributes to the weapon's compact profile and unusual appearance. U.S. Patent 4,905,394 was awarded in 1990, naming Rena copyright Redesigned as the sole inventor. The detachable box magazine is mounted parallel to the P90's barrel, fitting flush with the top of the weapon's frame, and it contains 50 rounds of ammunition, which lie in 2 rows at a right angle to the barrel. As the cartridges are pushed back by spring pressure and arrive at the rear end of the magazine, they are fed as a single row into a spiral feed ramp and rotated 90 degrees, aligning them with the chamber. The magazine body is composed of polymer, and it is semi-transparent to allow the shooter to see the amount of ammunition remaining at any time. Sights and accessories. The P90 was originally equipped with the Ring Sight's HC-14-62 reflex sight, but the current weapon is instead fitted with the Ring Sight's MC-10-80 sight, which was specifically designed for it. The HC-14-62 has a polymer housing and uses a forward-aimed fiber optic collector to illuminate the white daytime reticle, which consists of a large circle of about 180 minutes of arc, with a 20 MOA circle surrounding a 3.5 MOA dot in the center. The MC-10-80 has an anodized aluminum housing, and has a similar black reticle. The night reticle for both the HC-14-62 and the MC-10-80 consists of an open T that is primarily illuminated by a tritium module, and, in the HC-14-62, ambient light drawn in by an upward-facing collector. The sight is adjustable for both windage and elevation, and it can be used in conjunction with night vision equipment. As backup in case the reflex sight is damaged, a set of fixed iron sights is provided on each side of the reflex sight housing. The P90 has provisions for mounting a number of different types of accessories, including tactical lights and laser aiming devices. A sling can be attached to the P90 for greater ease of carry, or it can be fitted with various sound suppressors such as the Gemtech SP90, which was designed specifically for the weapon in cooperation with FN Herstal. This stainless steel suppressor with a black oxide finish is built according to MIL specs, including saltwater corrosion resistance. It has a length of 184 mm, a diameter of 35 mm and a weight of 680 grams. When subsonic ammunition is used in conjunction with the suppressor, it reduces the sound signature of the P90 by 33 dB. A small case collector pouch for the P90 is available which fits over the ejection port and collects spent cases as they are ejected downward. The pouch will collect up to 100 cases before filling. Variants. Military models, P90TR. The P90TR model, also known as the flat top, was introduced in late 1999. It features a receiver-mounted triple MILSTD 1913 rail interface system, or triple rail, for mounting accessories. There is one full-length accessory rail integrated into the top of the receiver, and 2 rail stumps are included on the sides of the receiver. The top rail will accept various optical sights with no tools or additional mounting hardware required, and the side rails serve to mount secondary accessories, such as tactical lights or laser aiming devices. P90 USG. The P90 USG model is similar to the standard P90, except the reflex sight housing is aluminium, and the sight has a revised reticle. The black reticle consists of a tiny dot inside of a small ring, which is joined by 3 posts that glow red in low light conditions due to tritium illumination. The USG reflex sight can be removed and replaced with a special MILSTD 1913 rail mount for attaching a different sight. P90 LaserX models. The P90LV and P90IR models, both of which were introduced in late 1995, have an integrated laser sight manufactured by LaserX Technologies in Australia. The P90LV model projects an 8 MW visible laser intended to be used as a low-light shooting aid or for dissuasive effect, while the P90IR model projects a 4.5 MW infrared laser that can only be seen with night vision equipment. Both laser systems are compact, consisting of a small, flat panel integrated into the front end of the weapon's frame. The LaserX P90 laser systems have a weight of 131 grams, and they are activated by means of a green pressure switch located on the underside of the weapon's pistol grip. The lasers can be configured for 3 different internal settings: offer a disable to prevent accidental activation, training and a low intensity for eye safety and extended battery life in training, or combat or a high intensity for maximum visibility. The LaserX P90 laser systems have a battery life of 250 hours when used on the training setting, or a life of 50 hours when used on the combat setting. Semi-automatic models. The PS90 is a carbine version of the P90, intended for civilian shooters for personal protection and sporting use. It was introduced in 2005, and continues to be offered in several configurations. The PS90 will accept the standard 50-round P90 magazines, but the gun is supplied with a magazine that is blocked to a capacity of 10 or 30 rounds, allowing it to be sold in jurisdictions where magazine capacities are restricted by law. In order to be legal for purchase by civilians without obtaining a tax stamp for a short-barreled rifle as defined by the United States National Firearms Act, the PS90 carbine has an extended 407 barrel and is semi-automatic, with a trigger pull of approximately 31 36 newtons. The lengthened barrel has 8 rifling grooves, with a right-hand twist rate of 1/229 and a rifled length of 376 ohm. The muzzle is equipped with a fixed birdcage-type flash suppressor. Despite the added barrel length, the PS90 is relatively compact and lightweight, with an overall length of 667 ohm, and a weight of 3.4 kg with a fully loaded 50-round magazine. Due to the added barrel length, the PS90 can achieve a muzzle velocity of up to 777 ams with SS-195 LF ammunition, or up to 930 ams with third-party ammunition. PS90 Standard. The PS90 Standard is the current model of the PS90 offered by FN Herstal. It features a MILSTD 1913 rail fitted to the top of the receiver, which allows the shooter to mount their preferred optical sight. The rail includes a set of integrated iron sights, as backup in case the primary sight is damaged. The PS90 Standard is available with either an olive drab or black frame. PS90TR. The PS90TR is now discontinued. It featured a triple rail receiver assembly identical to that of the P90TR. The top of the receiver consisted of an MILSTD 1913 rail, allowing the shooter to mount his or her preferred optical sight. 2 polymer side rails one on each side of the receiver were included for mounting secondary accessories, such as lasers or tactical lights. Like the PS90 Standard, the PS90TR was available with either an olive drab or black frame. As of 2013, the PS90TR model is no longer listed by FNH USA, PS90 USG. The PS90 USG is now discontinued. In the same fashion as the P90 USG, this model has an aluminium reflex sight housing with a revised reticle. The black reticle consists of a tiny dot inside of a small ring, which is joined by 3 posts that glow red in low light conditions due to tritium illumination. The USG reflex sight can be removed and replaced with a special MILSTD 1913 rail mount for attaching a different sight, and like other models of the PS90, the USG is available with either an olive drab or black frame. As of 2011, the PS90 USG model is no longer listed by FNH USA, but the USG reflex sight is still offered as a standalone accessory. Users Despite being originally intended as a defensive weapon for military personnel whose primary role is not fighting with small arms, most sales of the P90 have been to special forces and counter-terrorist groups who use it for offensive roles. The P90 first saw operational use in the 1991 Gulf War, where it was used by the Belgian Special Forces Group. In 1997, suppressed P90s were used in combat by the Peruvian Special Forces Group in Operation Chavienda Huantar, the hostage rescue siege that ended the Japanese embassy hostage crisis. The operation was a success, all 14 MRTA revolutionaries were killed, and 71 hostages were rescued. The MRTA revolutionaries who had taken the hostages were equipped with body armor, but it was defeated by the Peruvian Special Forces P90s. In 2011, P90s were used by Muammar Gaddafi's military forces in the 2011 Libyan civil war, and some of these examples were captured and used in the war by Libyan rebel forces. By 2009, the P90 was in service with military and police forces in over 40 countries. In the United States, Houston Police Department was the first local law enforcement agency to adopt the P90, acquiring it for their SWAT team in 1999. In 2003, the Houston SWAT team became one of the first agencies in the country to use the weapon in a shootout. By 2009, the P90 was in use with over 200 law enforcement agencies in the United States, including the Secret Service and Federal Protective Service. In response, the National Rifle Association added the P90 and PS90 to its NRA Tactical Police Competition standards, allowing law enforcement agencies to compete in the event using either weapon. Military and law enforcement organizations using the P90 include, see also, AR-57, Heckler & Koch MP7, Knights Armament Company PDW, Magpul PDR Street Kinetics CPW, VBR Belgium PDW. References. External links, official website FNH USA, PS90 Owner's Manual, FNH Firearms blog, official P90 promotional video on YouTube, PS90 disassembly video on YouTube, American Rifleman FN 5.7A, 28mm weapons video on YouTube.